I'm in angst. That's the only way I know how to describe it. Everything just feels surreal right now. My wife and I were together for 35 years. We married young, and about 10 years later, we were expecting our first child. Throughout the entire pregnancy, every doctor told us we were having a baby boy. The day she went into labor, I was at work. Instead of telling me to rush to the hospital, she insisted I stay where I was. She even yelled at me not to come. I figured it was just the stress and hormones talking. The second my shift ended, I raced to the hospital. But when I got there, she was nowhere to be found. I searched every hallway until my pager suddenly went off. It was my wife. I found the nearest phone, and she calmly asked where I was. Completely confused, I drove home as fast as I could. When I walked through the door, she was sitting in the living room, exhausted, cradling our newborn, only it wasn't a boy, it was a baby girl. She told me the hospital had made some kind of paperwork mistake. It sounded unbelievable, especially after we had spent months buying clothes, toys, and everything else for a little boy. But I wasn't about to let that ruin the happiest day of my life. I held my daughter for the first time, and none of it seemed to matter anymore. That first night, the three of us slept together. I held my baby whenever she cried, rubbed my wife's back when she was sore, and couldn't stop staring at the little family we'd created. From then on, I worked harder than I ever had before. I made sure food stayed on the table, the bills were paid, and whenever I could, I saved enough money to surprise my wife and daughter with gifts. Watching my little girl grow up became the greatest joy of my life. I watched her take her first steps, start school, graduate high school, and eventually leave for a state university over 100 miles away. There was always one thing that felt a little strange. People would often mention that she didn't really look like either of us. If I was honest, I noticed it too. But it never changed how much I loved her. Then everything changed when my wife was diagnosed with cancer. Those years were the hardest of my life. I watched the woman I loved lose her strength, her appetite, her hair, and little by little, her life. I stayed beside her every single day. On the day she passed away, our daughter was away at college, leaving me alone with my wife during her final moments. She looked at me with the same loving eyes I'd fallen in love with decades earlier, then suddenly she started crying. Her smile disappeared. She grabbed my hand and confessed something that shattered everything I believed about our life together. She told me our baby boy had died during childbirth because of complications. She couldn't accept losing him. Something inside her broke that day. While I was still at work, she stole another family's newborn baby girl from the hospital and brought her home as our own. She convinced herself that she was our daughter. And because I trusted the woman I loved more than anyone in the world, I never questioned it. In an instant, every strange memory from the past suddenly made sense. The missing hospital visit, the impossible paperwork mistake, the fact that our daughter never looked like either of us. My wife is gone now. My daughter still has no idea she's been living someone else's life. And every single day since that confession, I've asked myself the same impossible question. Do I tell the only daughter I've ever loved that everything she's ever known about herself was a lie?